Hey guys, thanks for clicking on this video. I am so glad you're here in my jungle. I added another plant. We'll see if I like it here. I just feel like I'm kind of like nestled in. So today's video, I've had a lot of people kind of ask, when do you DNF a book, or what are your boundaries with when you're reading books, and what will make you stop reading a book? I'm getting a lot more into fiction books. When I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I was like strictly reading Christian nonfiction, which I still absolutely love, but I am getting into other genres that I used to love growing up. Mystery is like my thing, my jam. I haven't found another fiction genre that I like as much as like mystery thrillers. When I'm branching out, there are definitely, especially in like the adult fiction, there are definitely things in those books that make me feel uncomfortable, and so I'll stop reading them. It's also hard for me because I'm kind of like weird about finishing things. I don't like to leave something unfinished. So for me personally, that kind of gets in the way a little bit. Not always, I'll get into it. I'm kind of like rambling a little bit, but like it's hard for me to DNF a book, which means did not finish. I was like, what does it mean? Like I said, I want to give it a fair shot, but there have been books that I have stopped almost immediately. One of them was called Gone Girl. I think it's by like Gillian Flynn. I don't know. I think I maybe made it through a page of that book, maybe a couple pages, I don't know. And then I was like, heck no. So there are definitely some books that are really easy. Like if it's at the very, very beginning of the book, it's so easy for me to be like, if it's already getting into this stuff, then I'm gonna hate the rest of it. You know what I'm saying? But when I've been reading like 60% of the book and it's been pretty fine, and then something happens, it's like, okay, what do you do then? Do you stop reading it, or do you just like try and skim past it? At this point, because it is so hard for me to like just stop reading entirely, there's something in me that's like, you didn't finish that book. Like, I don't know, that kind of hinders me from just like DNFing a book, even though I'm like maybe not enjoying it, but I've made it that far. So I feel like I have to finish it. In the adult genre, there was a lot of things that, I don't know if I was just naive. I was just naive. Things that I was not expecting to be in books. Very like graphic details that I don't want to read about and don't want my mind going to. And so there are definitely things for me that will absolutely make me stop reading. Pretty much stay away from like romance type of books. And I know that there's Christian romance as well, but there's something about the romance genre that there's just too much of it that I don't like or don't agree with, or just the morality of it gets me tripped up. And so I apologize if this is all over the place. I'm just trying to answer the question, and yeah, I don't have any notes or anything, so I'm kind of like bloop. So for me personally, language is definitely a factor. Like if the book has a lot of strong language, and I'm talking about like very strong language. If a book has a lot of the F word, I will not finish it. If the book takes the Lord's name in vain multiple times, I'm not okay with that. There's certain things where I'm like, yeah, no, like this was unnecessary to put in the book, but it's tripping me up because I don't want to read about that. I don't want my mind thinking about those things. If there's a lot of language, I will stop reading it. Now, if the book has been fairly clean and once in a while there'll be a swear word or like the D word or something like that, I don't feel as convicted about that personally. Now, having all of this to say, you guys might have stronger convictions than I, and that's totally fine. And I might have stronger convictions than you, and that's totally fine. It's as long as we're listening to the guiding of the Holy Spirit when we're reading, that's what we're responsible for. So going back to the romance novels again, I have never really been interested in that genre anyways. Like I said, I'm a mystery gal, and usually mysteries do not have like any romance in it, which is fine with me. But when there's like aspects of romance even in a non-romance novel, there tend to be a lot of morally gray areas that authors will take the liberty of just being kind of explicit with things, and I don't appreciate that, nor do I want to think about those things or read about those things. So if there's a lot of like sexualized things or sexual tension and things like that, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. And usually in these types of books, it's not just like the sexual tension, it's also like there's other morally wrong things. Like, okay, so I just finished A Voice in the Wind, and if you like that book, that's great. I didn't dislike it, but basically throughout the book there's like this budding romance, sexual tension between these two people, one being a Christian, one not a Christian, and yet them being like super, super attracted to each other. And you find yourself like rooting for this romance because the author's like wanting you to root for them. But in real life, I would never do that because they are unequally yoked. So, you know, there's like other moral things that come into play. And I'm reading a book, what is it called? The Girl on the Train. This one has been extremely like frustrating. I don't know if you've ever read this book. It's a mystery thriller. And I'm struggling through it because the main characters are so like, they're so annoying, and they do really stupid things, and they live very sinful lives in many ways. And so it's hard for me to want to get on these people's sides, and I don't know what the author's trying to do. I can't figure out if she's trying to get me to be on anyone's side at this point, but I'm definitely not on the main character's side because, you know, she like struggles with drunkenness and alcoholism, and yes, she's had trauma in her life, but I don't think that excuses the way that she acts, and she sleeps with other people, and it's just like that aren't her husband. And so it's just icky, you know, and I can't root for a person like that. Me personally, I just can't. I have these like moral barriers that I can't pass, you know? And so that makes it a lot harder to like read the book as maybe the author intended it to be read. Obviously it wasn't meant for a person like me with my type of boundaries and stuff. I usually like will try and give something a shot unless I can tell off of the like synopsis that it's gonna be absolutely no. You know what I'm saying? Or at this point I haven't ever read like a horror book, like a paranormal or something like that. I don't think I would be comfortable reading something like that. Obviously romance is incredibly like, I'm not against romance, but I, for a lot of reasons, just don't care about even dipping my toes into that because I know where that usually would lead unless it's a Christian romance. But even like I said, The Voice in the Wind, that was a Christian and romance, and there was some things in that I didn't like. Well, I don't know if it was a romance. Have you read A Voice in the Wind? Anyways, there's things like that I'm just like, no, I don't want to waste my time reading this kind of stuff. Then there are certain things that it depends on the way that the author has articulated it. So I just finished a book called The Night Swim. Yeah. And it was a lot about, I don't want to get demonetized by saying it, but, and so they were in court and they were fighting these cases and these accusations, and hearing some of the details wasn't as convicting for me because it was like in a court setting or it was in an investigation, and I felt like, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I didn't feel necessarily convicted about that because it was trying to get down to who did what and who's telling the truth and what actually happened. And because I really like the crime aspect and the justice aspect and wanting to have the wrongdoer punished, that there was parts of those things that I felt okay reading. Now I understand why some people wouldn't, just because there is like some, not like too graphic of details. If I'm remembering correctly, there wasn't like crazy graphic details, but there definitely were details that would probably have convicted me if it wasn't in like an investigation, I guess. And I don't know if you guys have ever like listened to like crime podcasts or crime shows, or just like, there's a way that it's communicated that's not in a way to arouse that in you, you know? It actually like sparked a lot of like, I don't know if it's righteous anger, but like, I know that these things actually happen and there are real victims that go through things like this. And so I wanted to see it play out, and I wanted to see justice be served. Like, that was my focus, was justice, not the act itself. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's gonna make any sense to you guys, but that's how I kind of deal with some of those things. Is it really depends on what the author's intent with that content is. I don't like to read a book with like morally gray heroes, or morally neutral, or even like to persuade you that the evil guy is the hero. I do not like that at all. I haven't necessarily read anything like that, but I know I would hate it. Well, kind of The Girl on the Train. I don't know what's going on with this book. I really want to finish it because it's driving me absolutely up the wall, but I'm so far through at this point that I gotta keep pushing through. And that's like another of my mindset, that even if I'm not like totally enjoying it, if I'm that far along, I feel like I have to finish it. And so there will be things that will maybe come up in a book, but if I'm that far along, I usually can kind of skim past it. But having said that, it also makes my rating of the book much lower that it's even in there. So I don't completely ignore it. I do have a Goodreads account, so you can see any of my like reviews and things like that after I've read a book. Usually I'll give like a kind of morally neutral thing. Not sure how I feel about it. I think it's good, but there's a lot of stuff that were iffy. I usually give that like a 3-star because it wasn't necessarily like bad. But I've definitely given a lot of books like really bad ratings for different reasons. So those are kind of like my general thoughts towards like fiction books in general. I haven't necessarily had nonfiction that I just stopped reading. If I'm gonna stop reading a nonfiction book, it's probably because it's boring. Usually I'm pretty good at like picking a nonfiction that will interest me. I would be super curious to know what your guys' like boundaries or convictions are, and things that you do read, things that you don't read. Yeah, just ultimately like, what are your guys' reasons for stopping reading a book? Other than that, that was the conversation. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And obviously, like, if God convicts me of other things, I will absolutely need to listen to it and obey it and stop reading certain things and just get better and I guess more comfortable with like DNFing books. Anyways, that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see and have a great day. Yes, have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.